Hi guys, so on this episode, me and Chris talk about knowing your limits as a personal trainer, knowing who you are as a person, and becoming self-aware. Whether you are a personal trainer or not, this one is for everyone. Like all of our episodes, you will get something out of this, and this is about knowing your insecurities, knowing yourself as a person, knowing your limits, and being able to be open-minded enough to view situations from a different perspective. We just talk a lot about where our job as a coach starts and ends, and where our jobs as people start and end. So hopefully you enjoy this one, guys. Again, 5-star rating and review on Spotify and iTunes. That'd be great. You can find me at Hat the Body, Hat the Mind. You can find Chris at the Symbiotic Chimp on Instagram. Thank you so much, guys. Enjoy this episode.
Welcome to Real Coaching Radio, the podcast for coaches by coaches. We are here to teach you how to get the most out of your clients and yourself. This is where beauty meets the beast, brains meet brawn, and science meets, well, bro science. Welcome to Real Coaching Radio.
So, basically, QuickTime Player allows me to record the audio from these mics into that QuickTime Player.
Okay.
It basically records my mic on the left and your mic on the right.
Okay.
And when you put it in headphones, it would sound like you're on the right and I'm on the left.
Mental.
Not good for audio podcasts. Yeah. So, I can't use Photo Booth because Photo Booth records it as we are both one audio.
Yeah.
Meaning if you're louder than me, I can't edit your audio.
Right.
And like if I'm quieter or louder, I can't edit mine separately from yours. But what I can do with QuickTime Player is because yours comes out on the left, mine comes out on the right.
Yeah.
I can split it down to be yours left, mine right, put it into 2 different tracks, and then I can run it as an audio mono, so it comes out both of us, which means I can edit it singularly.
Whoa.
And it's stressful because we've only done these videos for like fucking 5 times. And do you know the really annoying thing about a video podcast?
What?
We have a DSLR camera.
Yep.
So the camera I use.
The really nice one.
30 minutes recording time.
Sick. Yeah,
so
that's good.
Because of some European law, can't record for longer than 30 minutes.
But why? Doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense, mate. So you've got to buy like a £3,000 video camera.
Right.
So
that's good.
One day,
yeah,
when we're sponsors by like Rain and the t-shirt guy, then we can actually have loads and loads of money.
When Mr. Beast sees us.
When Mr. Beast sees us and says, do you want to come and play GTA for £30,000 or something stupid?
All you have to do is hit one prostitute.
Legit. Yeah. So I watched one the other night and it was like, right, we're going to run away. There's like 10,000 military after us. And I was just like, if you catch us, you'll get 20 grand. And I'm like,
oh, that's pretty easy, mate. Helicopter, 5 seconds in.
Yeah, legit. And so anyway, right, this podcast, not about Mr. Beast, is actually about knowing your limits as a coach. So when it comes to this ability to be a coach, to like be a personal trainer, to kind of coach strength, to coach conditioning, to coach someone to gain muscle or whatever their goals are, there's a couple of different aspects to it. And I can very easily talk about the coaching aspect of it because I like the people side of it, and that's the bit that kind of comes to me the easiest.
Yeah.
You and Mark obviously have a lot more information and a lot more knowledge around the details of like programming and the details of like kind of the anatomy, physiology, biomechanics, that type of stuff. Now, I don't talk on those things as much as because I don't necessarily know a lot. All I have is my experience.
Yep.
Does that make sense? So
yeah,
I
definitely.
I haven't read any programming manual or book. I haven't read like any anatomy book apart from like the stuff we did on the course. Like I know where muscles attach. I know what they do. I know how they work. But like, I couldn't tell you how they work in synergy.
Yeah.
As well as like, I can look at someone doing exercise, understand what's working, but it takes me a while to understand like actually like this tiny muscle of your glutes working when you do this. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like,
definitely. Yeah.
And kind of when it comes to programming, like I don't know programming to the details of like we have conjugate, we have linear, we have X, Y, and Z. I just understand it from the point of view of like, as we're getting more specific towards a goal or towards something, we need to be looking for some kind of adaptation to occur. We're kind of looking to achieve something within a program. And the easiest one I can give is like, if I'm going for a 1 rep max on a back squat, like there's no point me doing 10 reps the week before.
Yeah.
So I understand that point of view is as we get more specific, we're going towards there.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I've done all right. I'm going to drop it again because I've already dropped it in the first one.
One more time.
Which didn't record. So 250 kilo deadlift. I've got a 205 back squat and a 140 bench press. So even
from your own programming?
From my own programming, which has like been, and this is kind of like, a part of this talk is about knowing your limits, is like understanding how you have an ability as a coach to practice on yourself, to use your experience to guide your practice, and that's what I've done. And then throughout the years of doing more CPD, there's so much information and books and like different things and podcasts and videos and other kind of you can go and get other like accreditations from people, so you can learn loads more. But when it comes down to knowing what you know and knowing your limits, I think it's really important to understand the knowledge that you do have, the value you can provide, and the knowledge you don't have and the knowledge you can't provide.
Yeah, definitely.
So what sparked this in me was kind of reflecting on my kind of coaching practice in the past, looking at like my insecurities around the knowledge I don't have, and then seeing other people do their thing and me going, you're not really credible in doing that, right? So when it comes to knowing your limits, like you're not, as a personal trainer, a physiotherapist, a counsellor, you're not some kind of masseuse, because I've seen like, we'll walk
like,
through the gym.
Yeah, guru, or
you're not like, you don't have...
Life coach.
Right, life coach, like definitely life coach within there, because there are professions for a reason, and it's like I'm studying to be a counsellor at the moment. I love the people side of it, and I think like if we can sort out your head, if we can figure out your insecurities, if we can figure out the thing that drives you to want to achieve something or to want to change your body, or like what drives you to have the kind of dependencies on some sorts of food or some kind of alcohols, if we can figure that out, we can get a really good way of like, let's figure that out, let's sort that out, and then we can get towards your goal.
Yeah.
Because there comes a point with like coaching stuff where I have to bring someone along a journey to get them to a point where I can start to hold them accountable, because as soon as I start to throw anything hard at them at the very start, they would just check out because they're not ready for it.
Yeah.
So for me, it's always about understanding where they are to try and get them to where they need to be. But what I don't do, and this is something which I think is really, really important, is like I sit down with a few people and like will kind of literally filter through what could have made them be dependable on certain things. Why do they react certain ways to certain situations? Now, I make it very, very clear, this is not a counselling session.
Yeah.
This is me trying to do this so we can get you to here. Because as soon as you start to think that you are a counsellor, as soon as you start to think that you are a physio, I think you're losing the art of the coaching in what you can provide. I definitely don't like people who are not credible doing things that they should be somewhat qualified for, but I understand where there's crossover.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important thing, is know there's crossover, but know your limits.
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack there in what you were kind of saying. So the first thing you were kind of talking about was knowledge versus the art. So it's like the art versus the science of coaching. And I think, there's the word credibility. When you talk about credibility and you're talking about someone being accredited or having a certain, it's basically saying that they've taken the time to look into that thing for lengthened period of time, a specific amount of time, from a knowledgeable source, gain that knowledge, and then they now are accredited to provide that knowledge. But that's basically just acquiring knowledge.
Yeah.
And so where the credibility thing becomes complicated for me is that you could spend your life studying something and never get a degree in it, but you could be infinitely more knowledgeable about it than someone who paid $9,000 a year to go to university because of an economic situation, where you are in the world, whatever it is. Like, you know, being a bit like, you know, taking a piss a little bit, but no Kung Fu master went to university. Do you know what I mean? It was purely through experience and gaining knowledge from previous people that had that knowledge. You know, there's a lot of people in gyms who have taken knowledge from previous people's training, and that's essentially how we originally got the bodybuilding craze, and how that literally. And like now, yeah, okay, we have far more science with it, and you could say there's more people that are evidence-based and therefore more accredited. But some of the biggest, baddest motherfuckers, some of the strongest, fittest people in the world, they didn't do it in a science lab. They didn't do it with scientists watching them, unless you're in Russia. They didn't do that. What they essentially did is they did it through experience and trial and error. As an adult and as a human being, as an adult, we are basically fumbling our way through with experience and gaining that experiencing and claiming knowledge over it. That's why I always find it so funny when one adult preaches to another adult like they're a child about their superior knowledge, and you're like, bro, I get it, I'm the same person, we've accidentally done two different things.
Yeah.
You can't possibly know more than me for definite. No. We don't know you know it for definite. Like, there's no way we can be sure of that. So that is interesting to me, the accreditation thing. So with the crossover, I think ultimately, you know, thank you for like appearing to me that I have so much knowledge, but a lot of it is where my interest lies, so I spend a lot of time studying that. But ultimately it is just for experience and trial and error. When you look at these massive studies from science for decades, let's say on conjugate is one of the best examples, where you had thousands and thousands of Olympic athletes who were getting medals from the conjugate system in Russia, and they were being very stringently watched and observed. But essentially, if you boil that down to, it was state-sponsored trial and error.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah.
So at what point does a study get more accreditation than you having 100 clients, trying something with 100 clients and it working?
Yeah.
You know, when you go too much into the programming science and whatever, like, the human body's been a human body for a very long time. It doesn't change. Progressive overload is progressive overload. Like, essentially, you're creating a stress stimulus where there's an adaptation, and you're trying to balance that stress stimulus versus fatigue. So when you were saying don't do 10 reps before your 1 rep max, 10 reps builds loads of fatigue, and then you're going to have too much fatigue to do something like a 1 rep max. So it's really simple, and there's loads of complicated ways of doing it. And yeah, I love the complex, detailed side of it. But essentially, I feel like we're all just going through life, gaining experiences, getting our little Girl Scout cookie badges for whatever those things are that we enjoy doing, and then we feel a sense of, I could give someone else this information. So what I want to bring to this conversation, which is very interesting, is over the years, pretty recently, there's been a very like anti-expert shift.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're from the angle of, and I totally see why, which I'll go on to, there's people on Instagram who claim lots of health things, even with doctor in the name. Like we could talk about like Carnivore MD, for example, right? Doctor in the name talks about a very extreme lifestyle and way of living and claims science-based things.
But it's just nonsense.
But it's like an angle.
Yeah.
Because if you look at one study by itself, done on mice, that's very different from 100 studies done on humans that are double-blind trials.
Yeah.
So, you know, then you get people calling them out and then showing different studies, and it's very confusing. Okay, so who is more credible, right? Who's more credible? And why I think it's difficult is because the loss of trusted experts because of COVID and whatever reasons through the last few years, where they were, even with like Brexit, like, yeah, this is definitely going to happen. And then it didn't, and everyone was like, holy shit, what the but you said it was definitely not going to happen. And then everyone woke up to Brexit, they were like, but it happened. It's like, But you got paid loads of money to tell us it wasn't going to happen.
Did you see the Russell Brand thing I showed?
Yeah, I was just watched it. So good.
He's like going on about like the news covering like the vaccine's 100% effective, and then it's like going through and it gets down to like
98, 97, 90, yeah, that's still mostly effective. 43, it's still like a third effective.
But it's just, what I mean by know your limits is that's the really difficult bit, and like there are people within the industry. There are people. Cheers, Siri. There are people within the industry who have these letters behind their name or in front of their name in the doctor's case, and they have a narrative, so they spin it on that.
Yeah,
it's really difficult to know, are they more credible than someone who hasn't gone to like university, hasn't done these things, but has accumulated all this knowledge.
Yep.
So I don't think it's necessarily credible. I think it's know your limits and be honest with the knowledge you have. And the reason I think that's the kind of argument that I want to bring across to new coaches or people looking at people within the industry is that actually the knowledge that someone has accumulated, as long as they're not sharing this as this is the one and all solution to your problems, then they're probably all right. And the biggest example of me just accruing knowledge and then applying that knowledge and going, this might work, it might not, was when I had a client who came to me and he was like, mate, I get sciatica really bad. I've had like bulge discs. So I like, can you help me out? And I was like, well, I don't know really what to do with that. I'm not a physio. Can you send me what your physio's told you? Can you send me like your actual diagnosis? Yeah. And I will look into it. Yeah. Through like literally scouring the internet, I then come across this Australian like paper, and I don't know if it was a study, I don't know if it was a theory or whatever it was, but it was practically taking Stu McGill's big three of like
McGill's big three,
bird dog and side plank. Basically taking that and giving you progressions and regressions to this, and it was some Australian paper, and it literally would talk you through, this is what a bulge disc is. I've probably got it on my laptop somewhere still. This is the muscles that surround our spine. These are the things we need to think about when like coming back from back pain. This is where bulge discs occur from. These are the exercises that you can start to work up through. Phase 1, use these exercises, which will take this amount of time. Phase 2, so on. So I'm like, okay, well, let's try and apply this into his program. Let's try and use this information and try and apply it to this program. And it was just like that for me. He was like, mate, I have like no more back pain. I have nothing like this. And it was like, okay, so like I'm also going to use some other knowledge where I've learned from elsewhere. How tight are your hips? Hips are really tight because he's driving all the time. Well, let's chuck you in some 90-90 to try and like stretch you out a little bit. Let's stretch your hamstrings. Let's do these things. And the guy's like, I do a 90-90 when I get onto site now because it sorts my back out. And it's like, yes, that may not be the best. Yes, I'm not credible in delivering that. But the ability for me to know that I didn't have the knowledge, to then go and learn something, to then go, this might work, but I'm still not qualified. That's the credibility in my aspect.
Oh yeah, because also like, what do you mean by credible? Right. So for example, I've had 2 partially herniated discs, and I've had knee tendonitis, and I don't have that anymore. And now I can deadlift the heaviest I've ever deadlifted in my life with 0 pain, and I can squat the heaviest I've squatted in my life with minimal pain in my knees, whereas before I used to wake up in the night in tears from shooting pains from sciatica down the back of my legs, and ultimately it made powerlifting unenjoyable to the point where I stopped. There was a long journey in that for me getting to a place where I had strengthened my core, I had corrected my movement patterns, I had fixed imbalances from hamstring to quads, blah blah blah, and that's always ongoing. And none of that was by a physio. So where do you draw the line when someone injures themselves or they have a similar injury to you, and you have, through your scouring of knowledge on the internet, through asking advice from other people and their base of knowledge, you get knowledge to improve your position, make yourself healthier, and ultimately perform the best you've ever performed? Why are you not credible enough to at least highlight to people, this was my experience in my journey? this is the problem with the snake oil sales, like Liver King and all that on the internet, is it's all anecdotal, right? So it becomes blurry as like, oh, I did this and it led to this happening to me. And people are like, well, if it happened to him, then it can happen to me. So it makes it hard as someone who's, and this is the key part of this conversation, being authentic.
Yeah.
It makes it hard when you're being authentic and you genuinely did have that experience and it genuinely did make you better, to then pass that knowledge on to someone and they go, yeah, but you're not credible. It's like, no, I'm not. I don't have I don't have any
accreditation
on me like fixing knees or fixing backs, but I fixed mine and I have fixed people's via training. So therefore, who is to say that's not credibility?
So I think that's the most important thing, is just to know, like, is to really understand where like our job lies, whatever industry you're in, but where your job starts and your job ends.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, like, for me, if I had someone when I first started saying they wanted to compete in a CrossFit competition, I would have said yes. Yeah. Come on, I can do that. Yeah. If they asked me now, I would literally be like, I have no idea about CrossFit.
That would be the right answer.
Go somewhere else. And that's the reason the answer when I was first starting out was purely through insecurities and like the fears of, I need to get as much people to show I can do things.
Yeah,
revenue, like there's all these different things. And like having the ability to be able to go, I'm probably not the best person for you, is really, really difficult. Because knowing your limits and knowing what you can and can't do purely comes from being self-aware. Yeah. Being aware enough to know what problem someone has and if you individually have the scope to deal with it. And I think even if you've cured back pain, even if I could say I've done this with a friend of mine, I can turn around and go, I've done this, look at this is the protocol we used, this is the protocol you used, but understand that like you may want to go and see a physio to see their professional opinion about what they think they should do. Well, and if it agrees along the same lines as what you're doing, probably okay.
The safety blanket would be, you always go to a specific professional in that said accredited position, so physio, doctor, whatever it is, mental health specialist. But I think it doesn't mean that someone can't add value. Like if you were to look at the whole of human experience, there was a time when humans didn't have writing. I'm going to be careful how I go with it. There was a time when humans didn't have writing, so you didn't have the written word to save all knowledge. So knowledge was passed down from one more experienced person to another more experienced person about whatever that specialised thing was. How to hunt, herbal medicine, whatever it is, childcare, whatever it is. And I feel like there is a fundamental value still to that personal storytelling and exchange of information that comes from pure experience and testing the knowledge or whatever. The ability to save information through writing on the internet or whatever, and therefore you can do a degree or accreditation or whatever, adds the ability to build information over time more quickly, and that's why we have ultimately developed as far as we have. But I think back to my degree, I can't remember fuck all of value to give you, but I am accredited in politics and international relations and security development. I studied genocide. How could I claim accreditation for preventing genocide? What the fuck? That's not how it works. So you have to look to that person, look at how they are living, how they surround themselves with people, what kind of things they're doing as a daily practice, who they've helped, and you can see a picture of them if you know them, not on the internet, but if you know them and you work with them, you can get a pretty good idea that they would be hopefully authentic and telling you information they genuinely believe in. And why not trust them if they have proven through their actions, through helping people, that they do know knowledge that would help people. So this is a really good conversation to have over the big explosion of our time in the fitness industry, which is knees over toes, right?
Yeah.
What the guy basically said is the accredited physios couldn't solve any of his problems. The accredited surgeons couldn't solve any of his problems. The doctors couldn't solve any of his problems. He was never going to play basketball again. Blah, blah, blah. He was getting too old. He was getting worse and declining. And then through old school physical therapy and strength development, and we're talking like stuff from the 60s and 80s, Charles Poliquin, right? Old school shit. He was managed to get full range of motion, full strength in his knees, like pain-free living, most athletic he's ever been. Now, however snake oil salesman he seems, he has genuinely provided a lot of people with pain-free living. Can we then say that he isn't accredited because he found that knowledge himself? He didn't go to university for it, and he wasn't taught it in person. Well, he's got stronger knees than me.
Yeah. So this is where this conversation goes down the rabbit hole of it now comes down to the personal intention of the person.
Yeah, definitely.
Because this is the hard bit that most people, it's really difficult to figure out. If you don't know, you don't know. And it's just, and that's why it's really difficult. It's like, so I had a message from a guy last night, right? And he was like, and I think it was a copy and paste message that he sent to a few coaches. But he's basically looking for a new coach, right?
Yeah.
Sent me a copy and paste message and was like, it'd be great if we could like have a conversation, or we could do like a taster session just to see how we get on and if you're right for me or whatever. And like, first response was like, you cheeky fuck.
Yeah.
First response, automatic, because I was just like, purely because of the way the message came across and the mood I was in, I'm not, and I was like, hang on a minute, this is really good. Yeah. Because at least he's fucking going around and going, who's going to fit best with what I do?
Yeah.
And I was like, that is what we all need to try and do when it comes to getting information and being honest with like, who's going to be the best person for me to work with? Because there's always this period of when you're trying to figure someone out, whether you're learning from them or a client's coming to you, you're trying to figure each other out. And it's trying to see like, is this person genuine?
Yeah.
And when it comes down to the intentions of the person, I think like one of my clients now, the reason we got to the stage now of being able to like kind of help each other out and really try and like support each other as we going through this client coach relationship is because like for the first month, he was just testing me to try and figure out, are my intentions genuine? When it comes to people like Knees Over Toes guy, when it comes to like Liver King, when it comes down to Carnivore MD, when it comes down to Lane Norton, when it comes down to like the Mind Pump guys, like kind of whoever we're talking about that we're trying to, the new age of getting information from people. Yeah. It's all about the intention.
Yeah.
And I think that's the bit that we all need to like really understand is like, is there something this person is saying that is valuable, and is their intention to sell me something?
Yeah.
Even if their intention is to sell me something, is there information?
Famous,
or get famous. Is there information? Is there something I can apply to myself, to my clients, to my way of living? And it's just like, I think people in general look for a one-all-fix-all answer, which makes it really difficult when people are going, it could be X, Y, and Z. They'll look to the Liver King and go, but the Liver King said it's the 9 ancestral tenets, which will solve my life. Yeah. And it's like, well, is there something from that we can take and go, yeah, these bits are good, these bits are probably a bit extreme?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things I would say is if someone is really famous for health and fitness, there is probably somewhere in there something they're saying that is obviously speaking to people. And you know, where people do now not necessarily follow the experts on everything, and they don't necessarily follow the science, and they like these big characters and anecdotes and extreme lifestyles like Wim Hof and whatever it is. It is basically trying to find a balance between like, I genuinely believe the Liver King has part of his message is truly genuine. I genuinely believe he believes what he's saying.
Yeah, he's got it.
I genuinely believe, and I genuinely agree on him about sunlight. Even when we're talking about stuff that seems like so radical, like wearing no shoes and stepping on the ground, there is hard science now that earthing, having your bare foot on the ground, does calm you. It does release stress in your body. There is a literal effect neurochemically from that. So stuff that he says isn't like, it's not complete bullshit. It's to the degree of which he says it. It's the way he says it's the only way to get healthy, and it is the way to say that if you're not doing it, you're subprimal. Primal. Fucking hate that. Yeah. Because you're putting people in camps of like, if you don't do what I do, you're somehow worse or less than me.
Yeah.
And who are you to decide if I'm worse or less than you? And also, so like intention is definitely one thing. Like if they have, we all have motives. Like we're trying to sell something at the end of the day. This is our job, so we all have some motive.
100%.
But it's like, how much is that guiding my motive? You know, like how much is that influencing me? And you can usually tell that from how extreme someone's acting, how like diehard they are by it. But then you look at like someone like Lane Norton, right? Great guy, right? Yeah. Great information, but he like ruthlessly attacks people, mate. Like, and that behavior like comes from the fact, and sorry Lane, but it's true. It's because you get attention from it. Yeah. You get attention from calling people out, which obviously, as your character online, as what you're trying to build as a person, the information you're trying to spread, same as James Smith. Some shit he says is just because he knows it will get likes, right? It knows because people will support him. Like, whether he's saying stuff about calories being true, right? He's also basically doing it for his own intentional fame. Right, so it is. You do have to look like, well, how much can I trust this person? Like, what are they trying to? So when I look at someone, for example, like Andrew Huberman, or Lex Friedman, I go that they are famous from what they've done, but it does influence some behavior, but they are so good at being genuine. I genuinely believe they think about what they say. They spend a lot of time putting it together, and their only intention is to help people and have interesting conversations about the world. Lex Friedman like constantly preaches like love and unity, and Andrew Huberman constantly preaches the power of science and how it can be actionable to improve your health. That's so different from attacking people, and it's so different from saying that if you're not in my camp, you are lesser, worse, whatever. And where I think the big divide is, and the big mistake is, although we take the piss out of people like Liver King and their false information, the fact he's geared off his fucking nut and he lied about it and stuff like that, where I think we miss the point is these people are getting such a big reach because they are giving value to people's lives, and we shouldn't dismiss the value it's given to those people's lives. Even if the person is wrongly doing things, those people are searching for answers, and something in the message they've said has had an effect. So let's try and, instead of attacking them, go, okay, yes, these are the valuable things, though that bit is bullshit. These are the valuable things, and you should do those as well as focus on these things.
That's really difficult, actually, because it's hard to, it's really easy, like, it's really easy to, as soon as you see someone else going, the person who you don't like, they don't like them as well. It's so easy to jump on that bandwagon and be like, yes, agree, like they're this XYZ. And it's a really difficult thing to step back and go, actually, like, can I do that? Can I take this information and go, like, look, what he's saying here is really good. What he's saying here is really bad. And we'll do the smart things stupid people have said. We're gonna do that at some point.
I like that one.
There's a lot of good things we can take from people. It's just the way that it's wrapped up in all of these other things, and like kind of along the lines of like, this is way off topic, but like fucking like the Harry and Meghan Markle documentary that's out on Netflix right now, right? Me. And it's just the fact that like these things, right?
Couldn't give a fuck.
Right, couldn't care less.
Go away.
Yeah, but like the way that it's portrayed from different media sources, from different things, like in the way of information, the way information is given across, like again, going back to like kind of the Russell Brand thing, the way we were told the vaccine's 100% effective to it being 12% or whatever the fuck it is now.
Yeah,
it's just like it doesn't necessarily matter where the source of information comes from if you don't have the ability to think for yourself and to really look into a subject, or are you being guided by some insecurity, some fear, and that person, what they're saying, what they have said, confirms your narrative or helps you in some way, shape, or form, which means
break out of your narrative.
Means you don't have to look into the thing that's holding you back. That's, for me, is like knowing your limits as a coach, knowing your limits as a person when it comes to getting information and understanding why you do what you do. I think like I will always come back to that. For me, is the underlying factor why you do what you do. I don't think I think that comes down to the bottom line for me. Self-awareness. Be aware of your inadequacies. Be aware of how of how great you are. Be aware that like you are not as bad as your brain tells you are sometimes, but also know you're not as good as your brain tells you sometimes. Know that the insecurities and the fears you have don't have to rule your life. But also know that you can be blindly taken on a journey by someone who has wrong intentions if you're not aware.
Definitely. I mean, like I think kind of a great place to like look at an ending is basically like, look, most of the basic knowledge stays the same. At a basic level, most of the basic knowledge doesn't change in the health and fitness industry. Most of the basic stuff stays the same. So the new flashy things probably have a caveat to them. Yes, science is constantly evolving. Yes, knowledge is constantly evolving. But we live in a highly, highly subjective world. So one event seen by 10 different people is 10 different events, right? And that is how history is written. So it depends on the observer, it depends on the time, it depends on the mood. You also have to consider that the people writing the science might be having different days in their life. They might have had a family member die. They might have had too many cups of coffee. Like, everything that happens to us will literally influence the way that knowledge is presented. There is no superior truth. We do not know the objective fact about everything, otherwise we do everything perfectly. You know, you would just be plugged into a system like the Matrix and you'd learn it straight away. We don't know that. So it is about trial and error. It is about experience. And ultimately, the best way, and like, let's go for a Lex Friedman route here, is kindness and understanding of each other. We are all trying to help each other grow to a place, and the people that seem genuinely interested in your well-being will probably further your well-being despite their maybe lack of accreditation or knowledge.
100%.
Rather than aiming for, you know, trusting someone who is apparently accredited, but is also, you know, going to a fucking children's cancer ward and being like, look at the fact they eat burgers. Just don't be a cunt.
Who's that?
It's Carnival MD.
What?
Yeah, mate. He went to a children's cancer hospital and was literally like, look at the horrible seed oils they're eating. I was like, bro, they're dying of leukemia, bro.
See, right, so this...
Just have it, like, let them have a burger.
And but that was going back, it's Liver King. I done this because of all the people trying to, like, take their own life. And, like, I think, again, if you look between the lines of that message, he's probably trying to say, even though he didn't say it, that, like, he's trying to help people out. It's like, yeah, all right, we get it, but it's...
So that's a really good point. So the point is, people are suffering.
Yeah.
They can take knowledge from what these people are saying, which may genuinely help their life. However, that's so gaslight. That's such a gaslight. It's like, I'm doing this for the greater good of other people, and the important thing about that is exactly what we're saying, because I know better. I know the secret truth that will stop people from committing suicide. Like, this is very close to my heart at the moment because it's happened within my life recently. You cannot prevent some people from committing suicide, and it's even worse to be like, yeah, if you go for a walk in some sunlight with some bare shoes, mate, right, and you eat a fucking bull's testicle, that you're going to cure your depression. Bro, it's so much more. Like, there is a physiological element, don't get me wrong, but it's so much more to that.
I understand this, right? Like, so I'm going to go down a massive rabbit hole now, but like, just bear with me, like, and we will end this at some point, but
it's fun.
Yeah, this when I was going through my counselling training, just remind me, life coaches, because I want to get onto that.
Life coaches.
Yeah. When I was going through my counselling training, you were basically taught how to be so aware of yourself as to not put your own and project your own insecurities, thoughts, feelings, problems into the conversation when you're giving someone counselling.
Yeah.
So I cannot sit here and think like, say we're talking, right?
Yeah.
And say my girlfriend left me when I was 18, right? That stayed with me for my whole life.
Yeah.
Say someone's talking to me about a breakup and they're like, yeah, and then this happened and then this happened. And I'm like, oh, they're feeling this way because they must be feeling exactly the same way I was feeling.
Yeah. Okay,
right?
Yeah.
So if I start to project that onto them, I will subconsciously start to ask questions which will lead them down the path that I want them to go down. Not what they're doing.
That's very clever. Yeah,
so my job as a counsellor in this aspect is to just listen, to paraphrase, to literally understand where my own insecurities are, where my own problems are, where I am a broken counsellor, so I don't implement and put onto the counselling session my insecurities, my problems, my shit.
Yeah.
So I need to be aware of that. Right. So saying for me to turn around and be like, there is this one way to do something, there is this one way to cure yourself.
Yeah.
I think the reason there are so many people out there who are saying that there is one way to do something, that this is bad. Like, you could go to the point of like Michaela Peterson saying like, I only eat carnivore because that's cured X, Y, and Z. It's like, yeah, great. That's really worked for you. Share your experiences. Be like, this is what happened for me. Same as you. This is what happened to my back. Try this out. This may help, right?
Yeah.
I think there is the aspect that something has impacted my life so drastically, and we can all do this. I do this in the sense of, I think everyone should train because it helped my mental health. I think everyone should see a counsellor because it helped my mental health. Yeah. I think we should do this because it brought me back from suicide. It's like, yes, I've got these experiences, right? I think most people, life coaches especially, maybe not even just life coaches, but people,
gurus,
mindset people, right?
Yeah.
Mindset people are purely trying to improve their own mindset by the posts. They are creating posts and writing things down because they wish someone said that to them.
Yeah, okay, I get that. That's exactly what I do, definitely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So sure. I drive a lot of what I do based on my experiences, based on the knowledge that I've gained that have helped me. The really difficult thing to do as a person, as a coach, as a counsellor, as whatever it is to understand that there are other ways to do shit. Yeah. There are the way you are preaching, the knowledge and the shit you are doing, the mindset stuff of like, you can achieve anything today is purely because you want that to be said to you. And there was a clear switch, and it was when I went through the counselling course, it was the clear switch in my mind of like, fuck me, every post I've done over the last 2 years has been for me.
It's for me, yeah. So like literally, big up my own post here, but I literally wrote a post today about becoming who you are meant to be, or you know, who do you want to become. And a big part of what I was saying in that post, which is how I feel exactly about this moment, is that I don't like this mindset from motivational gurus and, you know, David Goggins types. He's a legend. He does really cool stuff. But fucking bitch. But basically what I don't like about all of these people, balls, testicles, Wim Hof, whatever it is that there's no secret answer. And one of the big things is, it's this idea of like, you can be anything you want. You can be whatever. That is bollocks. You can't be everything you want. You can be who you are. Yeah. Right? And very importantly, you can be a really amazing version of who you are if you reflect on who are you, what do you enjoy and want out of life, and you follow your path to make that happen. That means that some people might be 5 a.m. club, meditation, cold shower, eating a bull's testicle every day, whatever, and some people might not be that. Some people might be Jasper Skule, who has like a tray of sticky toffee pudding every other day, and like that's health. But that's the important thing, that becoming who you want to be and who you are requires a lot of self-reflection to be like, okay, so who actually am I? And this is kind of like the whole point, right? Yeah. Knowing your limits. Know who you are. Get an understanding of who you are and who you can become, and it will feel amazing. It will feel like you're in flow because you're going to be following the path that is most suited to you. It's going to have less restriction. Yeah. It's going to feel more natural. It's going to vibe with you. Don't push through some weird, you have to get up at 5 a.m. and be a fucking badass every day. I'm not a badass. Me and Charlie are very sensitive young men.
I need a hug. Like, someone hug David Goggins.
Yeah, someone give him some love.
I think we'll leave it there on the
Hug David Goggins t-shirt is literally gonna happen.
Hug David Goggins. I think it's that. I think what you said like is the sound bite and will be the half title to this episode is, you can't be who you want to be, but you can be who you are.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the biggest things you could take away from this. Know who you are and know your limits.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys.
Dog.
We'll leave it. Dog. We'll leave it there. We will see you on the next one. Cheers, gang.
Much love.
I'm not going to do a really long outro for this one, but I hope you did actually enjoy that. If you are looking to become a personal trainer, you can head to the Origin Series website, and we are trying to develop a course which is very much more personable and personal to each individual coming through. We have seen through doing it online that there are a lot of personal trainers who are or want to be personal trainers who still need to learn a lot about training themselves. So along with going through this course and earning your personal trainer qualification, you get a coach to help you out with your own training alongside that as well. Something which is not yet seen done, but something I think is very, very valuable. So if that is something you want to do, head to the Origin Series website. If you guys are looking for help with your programming or anything like that, you can head to the Origin Series website or mine at Hat the Body, Hat the Mind. Again, Chris and Jasper, at Jasper Skule, at The Symbiotic Chimp, at Mark Origin Series, at Hat the Body, Hat the Mind, all on Instagram. Find us there. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. This has been Real Coaching Radio.